Hello, everyone. Okay. My name is Kiera, and I'm one of the co-founders of Plexus Herbs. And for those of you who don't know, we've had a lot of new followers in the past couple of weeks. But for those of you who don't know, we are a herbal company where we sell a variety of herbal teas and a variety of herbal products. Once a month, underneath the full moon, I make a Florida water that captures the essence of the full moon. So that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. The full moon tonight is going to be in Taurus. If you know a Taurus, then you know that they're really good friends. So this one's about holding on to friendships. They're very grounded. So this one is also about groundedness. It's also about letting go of like the past, letting go of past troubles or grief or anything like that. I know like we've been experiencing a lot of grief in the last month. As a nation, I live in the United States, so letting go of that and trying to move forward. So looking forward to the new season. It is winter, so I know a lot of us are also experiencing seasonal affective disorder since it's getting a lot colder, especially in the north. So looking forward to the new season and new beginnings because, you know, in this winter season, there's always going to be a new beginning. So also seeking stability and joy. So, yeah. Joy in all aspects of your life. Stability is one of the things that Tauruses are like known for. They are earth sign. So this full moon is all about that Taurus grounded stability energy. And then also holding on to friendships and valuing loyalty. So in this live, typically this one I'm going to do a little bit differently. I'm going to tell you guys how I pick the herbs that I use for the full moon. And it's different every time. I know that we are a herbalist company, so typically people think that when you're herbalist, you focus on the herbs. But in my practice and everything that I've learned about herbalism, you can't have herbalism without spirituality. And if you believe that everything is interconnected, then it kind of goes hand in hand, right? So like each herb has a property that helps you elevate a spiritual aspect of yourself or helps you connect to a different aspect of your spiritual self. So when I make this, I definitely try to tap into my most highest and honest and best self when I'm making these because I am working with some really powerful herbs. All herbs are powerful. But yeah, so since this full moon is about groundedness and reflection and understanding cycles, I chose herbs that would represent each of those. So when I do this, I also choose a specific number of herbs. I've recently taken a herbalism course by Sister Yaya from Soul Tribe Heals. I'll add her in the comment below. I took her herbalism class, and she discussed something from the Comanche tradition where they use a specific number of herbs to enhance the various properties of whatever you're trying to make. So in this one, I'm choosing the number 7, which is for ascension. Which makes sense because this one is all about reflection, letting go, new beginnings. So we're trying to ascend from our past selves and all the grief or whatever we've been experiencing these last few months and ascending into who we are trying to be, especially as the new year is approaching. So yeah, I'm choosing 7 herbs for ascension. For reflection, I'm choosing chamomile. And I'm also choosing lavender. I usually put lavender and chamomile in all my Florida waters because they have such great properties. But you can choose any herbs that represent reflection. And what I'll do, if I'm not sure, is I'll actually just Google what herbs are good for reflection. But sometimes, you know, based off of me being an herbalist for like 3 or 4 years now, some of the herbs will kind of just be like, hey, this is really good for this. Like I'll drink a tea and it'll make me like reflect or it'll make me feel grounded. So those are herbs I try to look to. And then I'll go to like Google or some herbalist site to see if that's actually the case, if if my spirit is actually right about what this herb means. But yeah, so chamomile, whenever I drink it, I can get really, really calm, right? It's a anxiolytic type of herb, nervine type of herb. So it's really good for reflection. And then also lavender. So lavender is another really good relaxing herb. So it's also really good for reflection. It's also good for love, healing, protection, innocence, and grounding. And then chamomile is also good for emotional and spiritual balance, good fortune, and it's a symbol for peace and joy. So everything that this full moon is actually bringing in, we're trying to elevate it with this Florida water. So for groundedness, I chose passion flower. And passion flowers is also unnerving, so it helps calm like nervous thoughts, anxiety, and things of that nature. So it'll actually help us get more grounded into the earth. Another really good herb for grounding is skullcap spiritually. But any type of herb that helps you like just focus on yourself, focus on your connection with the earth, and focus on, you in the present moment and not in the future or in the past. So the next herb is looking forward to new seasons and beginnings. So something that will represent that would be cardamom pods. Cardamom pods are a really tricky herb for me. We use them in one of our teas, our dandelion chai. And it has like a very pungent flavor, but it's really good for soreness, and it's drawing out of like soreness or kind of pain, especially with toothaches. So like it takes out the negative energy physically and spiritually. So that's a really good herb for looking forward to the new season. So we're taking out anything negative and putting in something positive so that we can have something to look forward to for the new season. And then in my Florida waters, I also put cinnamon and cloves. They're really good for protection and prosperity. So I put that in all my Florida water. Cinnamon is just an all-around herb, and so are cloves. So yeah, those are the 7 herbs. So once you have your herbs that you chose, the first thing you'll choose is how many herbs you want to use. If you're interested in learning about the other, how the other numbers work with the Chromantic tradition, I would definitely suggest you take Sister Yaya's course on herbalism, but they typically use odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Each of them have like a different meaning. So for my Florida waters, I usually choose like 5 or 7. 5 is usually about change and 7 is about ascension. So either one, choose what number of herbs you actually want, and then you do the research about what this full moon is going to represent for you, for the energy surrounding you, for your friends, family, and then choose herbs that'll help make that come into fruition for you. So after you do that, you gather up your jar, and then I usually use greater than 100 proof alcohol. I'll use Everclear because it's 189 proof, but they have 190 proof. In certain traditions, they'll use Old Granddad or rum, and like Jamaican or Afro-Caribbean traditions. I just use Everclear because I could get it at my local wine shop, Total Wine. So, and I can get a big bottle because I make a lot of stuff with it, like tinctures and Florida waters and things of that nature. So after that, you just combine all your herbs in your jar. And as you're doing it, you want to like remember why you're putting those in there to help make it more powerful. So first thing I'm going to do is add my chamomile for emotional and spiritual balance. Yep, so a lot of people ask at our farmers markets what we use the Florida waters for. And typically, they're just for anything. We recently started putting them in spray bottles so people could spray themselves with them. And then I put them in, like, if I'm mopping or if I'm taking a bath, I put a little bit in my bath water, or you could put it in your mop water and clean your house with it, since it has herbs for protection and removing negative and stagnant energy. And I don't really like saying negative energy because some energy isn't like really negative. It's just stagnant. It just needs to move around. So my chamomile's in there, and then I also set lavender. And there's really no like measurements to how much of each herb you put either. You just kind of put however much until your ancestors tell you to stop, and you'll feel it. If you're making a Florida water and you're watching this video, you're gonna feel it. So I put lavender. I usually like to put a lot of lavender because it smells really good. Yeah, it smells really good. So I put the lavender in there for love, healing, innocence, protection, and grounding. As I mentioned, Tauruses are all about being grounded, being stable, setting boundaries, getting what you're owed. So this is also the last super full moon that we will have for the year. So I hope you're setting your intentions, and yeah, because whatever you want to manifest, like, it is the time, especially as the year comes to a close. So I have my lavender and my chamomile in there. The next thing I'm going to put is in in here is passion flower. As I mentioned, I put in this passion flower in here for groundedness, getting out my own head. I've been really working with my mentor, Crystal. If you're interested, I also put her info in the caption about being grounded. And I didn't really understand how being grounded actually plays a role in my life. I thought it was just like, standing up for who you are type of thing. But essentially being grounded is like being grounded in who you are, no matter who's around you. And that's even like helping you figure out what to say in situations where you might not have the words. Like if you're a political or corporate girly and you work in a very tense environment where you have to be political and you can't say certain things because you're afraid of losing your job, being grounded in who you are will help you navigate those situations, because you won't compromise who you are, but you'll say what you need to say, which is important because in those settings you need to set your boundaries. And you can't let people walk all over you. So because of that, I don't work in those settings anymore. I used to, but since I don't work, but I do work in a setting where I do need to speak up for myself and I'm still navigating those situations. I'm gonna put a lot of passion flower in here because oftentimes I'm at a loss for words, just like that. I was just at a loss for words. So in certain situations where I feel like I'm being like bullied or people trying to get me to act outside myself, I get flustered. I'm a Cancer, so I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I get emotional really fast. I'm gonna put a lot of grounding, like this passion flower, in here because I want to know what to say. I want to focus on or work on saying what I need to say without compromising my integrity, compromising my attitude, compromising relationships, and acting within myself, acting within my highest self. So I put a lot of passion flower in there for my groundedness. Next, I have rose petals. I always put rose petals in my Florida waters too. If you watch my last few, y'all, I love rose petals so much, so much. Yeah, rose petals are really good for letting go of past troubles or grief, and I also put them in there for self-love. As I mentioned, this whole full moon is about being grounded within yourself. Yes, girl, passion flower is the wave. Like, I love passion flower. I put a whole bunch in my Florida water. But yeah, so now I'm putting rose petals in here for self-love, and I'm also putting them in here for just letting go of past troubles or grief. If you are familiar with like the 7 chakras, your heart chakra, which is right here, is linked to and blocked by grief. So putting these rose petals in here will signifies I love you too. Will help you like signify or like enhance your ability to surpass grief and let go of trouble. So I always put rose petals in here to show myself love, but to also help me get past the grief that I feel. And grief can be anything. You can be grieving like not getting a parking spot at the let's say you in New Orleans and you trying to go down Bourbon Street and somebody just got your parking spot. I will be grieving that. Like, that's for real. Like, anything is grief, and you need to grieve every part of it. So I also used to put like a lot of rose petals in here and all my Florida waters, because practicing self-love and being okay with grieving to heal is just so important. Like, it's super important. So I got my rose petals in there for letting go of past troubles or grief. The next thing I have is the cardamom pods. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm still getting used to the cardamom pods. Like, they smell really good. And they taste really good in the tea. But I haven't gotten used to them as a herb. But everything I found on the internet was about, like, for looking forward to the new season and, like, new beginnings, said cardamom pods. So I'm going to put 7 in here because, as I mentioned, like 7 is a really good number for ascension. Grief, exactly. Grief is not just about death. Grief is about literally grieving anything. And as people, we need to be comfortable grieving because we need to learn how to let stuff go. If we can't let stuff go unless we grieve. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I love that. And hey, for just joining. But yeah, so here's the cardamom pods. I'm putting this in here for looking forward to the new season and new beginnings. Like, as I also mentioned, this is the last super full moon of the year. So manifest. Anything you want, manifest. Because you deserve it. You deserve it. We had a tough year, y'all. A very tough year. And we deserve to grieve, let it go, and then have something to look forward to. So I'll put 7 of these in here. That's 3. And I'm just breaking them open because it's a fibrous herb. And usually fibrous herbs take a little bit longer to penetrate than like roses or just flowers. 4. Let's see. 5. 6. Yeah, y'all make your own Florida waters. The stuff at the store is great. Don't get me wrong. But it's more of a cologne. You know, it's there's 2 different types. 6, I think that's 7. This is the last one, 7. There's 2 different types. Like the one that you can make at your house. And then the one, 7. 7 is the number of ascension. It is the best number. That's 7. So 7 herbs, 7 cardamom pods. Yeah. So the next thing I'm going to do is my cinnamon and cloves. I always put cinnamon and cloves in my Florida waters because they're really great for protection and prosperity. I recently learned you're not supposed to just ask for abundance. You're supposed to ask for prosperity. Because if you ask for abundance, you can have a whole bunch of stuff coming at you. But if you don't ask for prosperity, the coin's not going to come in. So we need the abundance and we need the prosperity. So I always put 11 cloves in my Florida waters. Because 11 is a number of completion, wholeness, and divinity. From what I remember from the Cormanti tradition. Again, if you're interested in learning about Cormanti tradition, spirituality behind herbalism, Sister Yaya from Soul Tribe Heals is the one who taught me about it. I went to her retreat in Mexico this past April, and it was amazing. I learned so much. I was surrounded by so many beautiful Black women, and we just healed together. We cried together. We learned about generational trauma from our mother wounds, trauma from our father wounds, and we just healed. And I learned the importance of grieving. Hey, Sine. And hey, Katara. So now I'm going to put in 11 cloves. I always put 11 cloves in my Florida waters. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And there's so, everything is connected. This is an easy Florida water to make. My cameraman is okay. Thank you. It's an easy Florida water to make. So I'll post this whole video again about it. But basically, I look up the full moon the month before. I decide how many herbs I want to use. I typically use between 5 and 7, and then I look up which herbs, intuitively, which herbs you want to use. You just kind of know. But if you don't, you can always Google it. Everything is on Google. And then you just put them in here with your intentions and put some high proof alcohol. It could be rum, it can be vodka, it could be anything over 100 proof alcohol. So then the last herb I'm going to put in is good old cinnamon. When I tell you cinnamon is literally good for everything, it's good for manifestation, it's good for blood pressure, it's a good diuretic. My family members have suffered with high blood pressure, diabetes, all those things. And I made this is a really good tea. This is a really, really good tea. It's hibiscus and cinnamon. And I just gave that to my mama. She drank 3 cups a day. She was still taking her blood pressure medication, but her blood pressure dropped. So cinnamon is just a really good herb for everything. But spiritually, it gets you right. And it helps you connect to your most highest and honest self. So then I just put a little bit of cinnamon in here. And then I shake everything up. Cinnamon. Oh, yeah. For smoking herbs, I would definitely use lavender. If you have anxiety, lavender. Rose petals are really good. I haven't tried passion flower. I feel like that'd be really, really strong. But it is really good for anxiety. So I guess it depends on why you're smoking. If you want to smoke just for to elevate, like spiritually elevate, I would try mugwort because that helps you reach a whole nother level. I haven't tried it personally. But yeah, any kind of like leafy herb is pretty good for, is good for smoking too. Yeah. But yeah, so that's it. Yeah, making the Florida water is super easy. They have the ones, so I recently discovered that they have Afro-Caribbean tradition ones, which is more along this line, and then they have the American version, which is the cologne that you see in like a bunch of spiritual stores. When they use that one, they make that one with the little essential oils. So that's also a way that you can make it. It smells really good, and then it makes you feel good. But this one is like all about the magic of the full moon. So it's like, I call it a full moon Florida water. But yeah, so now that I have all my herbs in here, I shake it up to make sure everything's in there. And then I smell it. It smells really like lavender, which I like. But I want a little bit more cinnamony smell, so put a little more cinnamon here. And yeah. And then you just get your high proof alcohol, any kind of alcohol that's above 100 proof. Afro-Caribbean traditions, they usually use rum, or they'll use like a old granddad, like in the Gullah Geechee tribes, they use old granddad. But as I said, I got this from Total Wine. It was cheap. I got a lot of it, and I need a lot because I make a lot of stuff like tinctures and stuff. So then you just pour it in here. If you're making the American version of the Florida water, you mix it, use like 60% alcohol and then 40% water. And it doesn't dilute it or anything. I don't know, I just like the alcohol. So, yeah, after you pour this in here, I usually just let it sit underneath the full moon for 3 nights. Because the energy of the full moon lasts for 3 days. So you can take, if you do like spiritual baths and stuff like that, you can take take your spiritual bath 3 days before the full moon, or 3 days after the full moon, or on the night of the full moon. But the energy lasts for a very long time. But yeah, this is it. You can make your own Florida waters, especially if you have bulk herbs. Yep, 60% alcohol, 40% water, and like the traditional, and like the American Florida waters. But in mine, I just put straight up alcohol. And this will make about, I think about 4 or 5 4-ounce bottles of Florida water. So you don't even have to make it this big. You use like a small mason jar. Put a couple of herbs and then fill it up with alcohol if you want to. Yep. Cancers be like, yes. Cancers be like, we gotta sit it underneath the full moon because that's where we get our energy. But yeah. And then you just put it in here, and then because I'm like a big numbers girly, I shake it 33 times. 3 is a good number. So I shake it 33 times. And then that's literally it. And then I'll just sit it outside underneath the full moon for 3 nights so it can soak up that full moon energy, the full moon in Taurus. And as a Cancer, I need the grounding that the full moon in Taurus is going to give me because my head is everywhere. But yeah, if y'all have any other questions, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate y'all tuning in because this is something I'm really passionate about. So I will also post the energy of the next full moon. And if you guys are interested in making your own Florida water and you don't know what herbs to use, you can just message me on this page or my personal page, and I can give you some pointers so that you can make your own Florida water, because it's really simple. You don't have to buy it, and you can customize it to your needs, which I think is really important for Florida waters, especially if you're going to be using them. So yeah, thank y'all for watching, and have a good night, and make your own Florida waters.